James was speechless as I finished telling him about the Weavers and the Winnowers. He had heard of them before in his memories from ancient Venetian society, but even among those people they had been something of an urban legend. He told me he'd been freaking out when he saw me talking to the sky, and the fear he saw in my eyes. He didn't trust that the Winnower would return us to Earth if I did his bidding, but at last he agreed that it was our best option. It was pitch black at the top of the ruins at night, and a soothing, cool breeze flowed throughout the ruins. The Weaver's spinstresses brought us something to eat and to quench our thirst. A fruit that James called numberries. It grew in caves under the desert. They were bright cherry red and the texture of a peeled grapefruit. They were unbelievably sweet, but after a long afternoon in the desert, they were exactly what we needed. They seemed to contain a mild anesthetic, however, leaving one's mouth numb after a few bites, hence the name. James fell asleep shortly after, and I made my way over to the fountain of placea. The same dry feeling enveloped my mouth and itched the back of my throat. I lay down on the cave moss bed the spinstresses fashioned together for us, and gazed up at the stars. But I was reluctant to fall asleep on this strange planet, surrounded by these strange creatures. Perhaps I didn't trust the Weaver either. In a panic, I wiped the thought from my mind. It told me it would monitor my thoughts after all. Instead, a feeling of doom crept into my heart as I policed my own thoughts, aggressively meditating and pushing them out of my mind. I don't know how long it took me to fall asleep, but I do remember the dream. I was in the center aisle of a dark amphitheater, a single spotlight illuminating the stage backed by red velvet curtains. There was a subtle crinkling noise, but I couldn't make out what it was. Slowly, I approached the stage to see a top spinning. There was a loud click somewhere in the distance, and the lights in the theater powered down. I could see nothing, nor could the sound of the top be heard. Slowly, my eyes adjusted. The top was still there. It wasn't spinning, yet it remained upright. A fishhook wrapped around my waist and yanked me back through the aisles. I awoke to the white dwarf's light in my face and a splitting headache. I shut my eyes again. It was far too painful to keep them open. "Are you okay?" James asked over my shoulder. "Yeah, I think drinking that liquid and falling asleep does a number on my head." "Yeah, I mean, is it even safe? It's probably toxic. I don't think the Weaver cares whether or not you live or die, just as long as it gets its answer. I don't know, can we not talk about this?" Another jolt of panic ran through me, thinking it might be listening. I looked up to the sky. "Id Journes, did you see my dream?"
"I did."
His voice was right there in my head, although he wasn't visible in the sky. It seemed like nonsense to me. Did it mean anything to you? I kept our conversation strictly business.
"Not yet. Each dream is a puzzle piece that may not make sense until all are together. Hopefully tonight's dream is more revealing."
Yeah, I trailed off, wondering if I should bring up my health concerns. What was the point, I decided, again figuring that if I refused the work, I would never make it home. We stayed in the shade of the pillars most of the day, eating numb fruits, and I fell asleep as soon as the white dwarf fell below the horizon. In my dream, I was standing on top of a map. Multiple swirling black orbs surrounded me, moving around like chess pieces. I had no body and began floating up, away from the plane. I moved across the map, faster and faster, over intricate patterns of orbs, until at last there were none. The map was empty, and I was becoming lucid, realizing it was a dream. I wondered why I wasn't waking up. There was nothing around me. Without warning, another dark orb was approaching. It was about 3 times larger than all the others, alone in the dark. I was falling towards it. I couldn't escape it. I woke up. James was leaning over me, holding onto my head and shoulders. "Oh my God, Nick, are you okay?" What happened?" "I'm fine. Just had a nightmare." "You were shaking like crazy and then you started vomiting. I had to turn you onto your side." "Okay, Yeah, this placea might not be good for my health. Id Journes, I don't know how much longer I can keep doing this, I called matter-of-factly up to the sky.
I don't blame you, Nick Ud Ubyx, but we are so close to finding Ud Ubyx Grata's Void Mother. Last night, you dreamed a map of galaxies, each dark orb representing a black hole in their center. I know many of these places and the weavers that run them. We are so close. I believe one more dream will reveal the Void Mother.
Okay, one more. Jeez, you've lost it. I heard James over my shoulder. I'm going to the ship. I'm tired of these berries. I need some real food. As James turned to traverse the temple steps, a spinstress blocked his path. What are they doing? He turned to me with a look of fear. Id Journes? The spinstress is blocking my friend's path to the ship. I tried to remain calm, assuming it was a misunderstanding.
Yes, I sensed that James was desiring some of your own necessities, so I had some spinstresses fetch some.
I gazed down the temple steps to see two spinstresses carrying our human food. What is the meaning of this? How and why did you enter my ship without my permission?
Nick Ud Ubyx, I know everything that you know, including the contents of and passcode to your ship. You don't need to be concerned for your privacy. I do not care about your human affairs, just as a tree does not care when it sees you changing through the window. I am aware that you don't trust me, but I am unable to prove myself to you. Please, be patient a little longer. I don't believe the placea will kill you, and you have my word that you will get home safely when this is done.
It all made sense. It all sounded reasonable. I trusted him again, although I couldn't figure out if I was stupid for doing so. Okay, sorry about that. I found myself apologizing.
Do not be sorry, Nick Ud Ubyx. As I read your thoughts, I understand things from your perspective. My spinstress misinterpreted my command to keep the two of you safe. Henceforth, you are free to move across the planet wherever you wish, although I would advise against doing so. Other creatures live here, less welcoming than the spinstresses.
I thanked Id Journes. Okay. You can go to the ship now if you want, I explained to James. He tells me it'll just be one more dream. James just stared at me. I could tell he thought I was dumb. He sighed, deciding to stay, and making himself a sandwich with the human food the spinstresses brought up. That night, I imbibed another sip of placea, and awoke into a nightmare. I was being crushed. My body felt so heavy. I knew that I was standing on the surface of a lightless world, although there was nothing to indicate it. Somehow, I was able to see. Shallow graves were dug all around me, and on the hill was a great stone building, something like a cathedral. There was a smell of sweet rot coming from the lilies growing along the dirt road. Their leaves and flowers were transparent. They must have been carnivorous. There was no wind and no sounds of animal activity that would have been heard on Earth. The sky was starless and moonless. Was this a rogue planet? Timidly, I made my way up the dirt road. The air was cold. I could see my breath. Everything was so still as I neared the precipice. The cathedral had no doors, and it was even darker than it was outside. Somehow, its interior had less light than this lightless world. I crossed the boundary into the stagnant air. Gradually, I was able to see here too. I walked down the main aisle between the rows of pews and realized I wasn't alone. Seated on the floor at the end of the cathedral was a strange alien wearing robes. He appeared humanoid, male. A sudden burst of lucidity hit me, and I had to remind myself it was only a dream. He appeared as a monk, and his eyes were closed as he meditated. I crept up to him slowly. Something compelled me to. Was this really a dream? It felt so real. There was no doubt in my mind this place existed. There was no doubt in my mind that this was the Void Mother of Ud Ubyx Grata. The monk's eyes opened, glowing golden. He roared into my face as black veins appeared on his. A fishhook looped around my waist and pulled me out of the cathedral.
Well done, Nick Ud Ubyx. You found him.